Hey everyone, and welcome to Marketing Monday with the Watertown Oswego SBDC. Special guest star, Nicole Willett, and I'm working with the SBDC on these fun live streams, which are all about marketing questions, because let's face it, every business has them. So we're going to be doing these live streams every single Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time, and they will be streaming where you're watching this now on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you have any marketing questions you want us to answer, we encourage you to leave a comment on this video wherever you're watching it. Or if you want to be anonymous, you can also email the SBDC. We might not get your email, obviously, until next week, but when we do, we can answer your question. And if you want us to make you anonymous, we can totally do that as well. Now, Facebook can be a little funny with the comments, especially if your profile is a little bit private. So if you want to make sure we see your comment, you just can go to streamyard.com/Facebook. That's the streaming software we're using, and you can enable comments. So that way, when you leave a comment, we'll definitely see it. And just so that you understand generally what's going on, the format of this is going to be 15 minutes on a special topic. So this week's topic is the target audience, but other weeks will be different topics. And then we'll be answering questions with SBDC advisors for 30 minutes after the initial presentation topic. So that's going to be the whole kind of Marketing Monday setup. And we're really excited to be working with the SBDC on this. And with that in mind, you probably should know a little bit more about the SBDC. So I'm going to add Liz to the stream here, who is the director of the Watertown SBDC, and she can tell you a little bit about this program and generally what's going on.
Hey, Nicole, thank you. And hi, everybody. Welcome back to SBDC live on Facebook. We were doing a lot of it in the, during the pandemic. We kind of took the summer off. We wanted you all to be outside as much as possible, just like we wanted to be outside as much as possible. But now we're back, and we'll be meeting every Monday at noon with Nicole Willett, who is a marketing consultant based in Canton, New York, and Bar Harbor, Maine. Yes, she's bi-coastal, if you think of Lake Ontario as a coast. And we are really excited to have her join us for a whole host of different topics. Today, we have Erica Davis, who is an economic disaster recovery consultant for the SBDC, and she's going to be joining Nicole, and I'm going to be out of here. But we're going to talk about market research and target markets. So one of the things that Erica and I have been talking about a lot is marketing initiatives for clients, for presentations and webinars we do. And one of the things that we always ask is, who are my customers? Is everybody my customer? And Erica and Nicole, who, by the way, is an extra special guest star, not just a guest star, are here to answer those questions for you. So let us know what you think. Leave us feedback. We're doing this for your small businesses, and we really want to help. So let us know how we're doing. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Great. Hey, guys. Good to have you here. And, before we shoot it back to Nicole, because she is the marketing expert for sure, I think that I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, how do we define target audience? What is it? Why is it important to identify a target audience, and sort of building that target audience profile too. But, Liz, that whole question about, is everybody my customer? And I think that, it's so important, because I think a lot of small business owners start off with that mentality, right? That the more people they can reach, the better. And it's understandable that to feel and think that way, but the fact is that, new business owners often waste a ton of time, and more importantly, a ton of money, right? Kind of burning through that first year marketing budget very quickly by having too broad of a scope when it comes to, who is your market, who is your customer, who is your audience. So by identifying the audience that is most important to you, you can start to think about, your marketing strategy, and that's so important. So just what is a target audience, right? A target audience is a group of people identify as being likely customers, right, for a business. So target audiences share similar demographic traits, as you can see here in this little image. And those kind of demographic traits include, of course, but not limited to age, somebody's age, right? Gender, geographic location, education, socioeconomic status. And then on the other side of things, the psychographics can sometimes be just as important, if not more, right? personality, opinions or attitudes, political affiliations, or their interests and hobbies. It's really important to kind of dig down and know who your customers are that way as well on the psychographic side of things. So next slide. So why is it important to identify your target audience? Well, it can help you craft your marketing strategies, right? And define, again, those core customers. Who is your customer and where, obviously, where will you find them? And Nicole is going to be talking more about that for us too. Where do they go to seek out the information about products or services such as yours, and where they might be spending their time, right? And their money, right? Whether it's online or, are they still watching TV or reading magazines, those kinds of things, where are they is just as important. So instead of spending money and resources trying to cater to every customer, like we mentioned, defining that target audience allows for more intentional and also that personal outreach, right? Because that's so important these days, especially with social media, right? It's creating that relationship with your customers. And one example I have of this is that I know the Watertown SBDC is helping daycare providers or people who are wanting to start in-home daycare, with their new business, operations and opening and, getting trained and up to par that way, especially on their marketing. And it's one example where I think that personal outreach, knowing who you're talking to, right? You might assume that it's probably more working moms than not, but it could be the dads too, who are looking for really great daycare in their area. And what is that message, right? What opportunity do you have to create that personal outreach that can really make a difference in them trusting you, right? So important. So the more specific you can identify your target audience's demographic, the more effective you can then advertise that to them and know where to advertise, right? So again, say that goal is to sell a product to working moms, right? Your advertising methods might employ those digital and social media platforms that we'll talk a little bit about today. And it may have more, your message might have a little bit more of an energetic or empathetic feel to it, right? Because again, it's not just what the message is, it's what does it feel like, right? But just as a different example, sort of a better approach to reaching maybe retired seniors is a marketing campaign using the traditional, more print ad if you can. And maybe that message carries a bit more of a softer or relaxed tone too. So lots to think about here. So next slide. So things to specifically think about when you're building that target audience or profile is, the best way to find your target audience is first by thinking about the specific needs your product or service fulfills, right? Create descriptions based on the demographics that you've found for your best customers to define who they are and how your product or service fulfills those needs that they currently have, right? And so what's so important about finding those needs is figuring out what their pain point is, right? What is the pain point and who has it, right? So again, research those customer demographics and get help this way. There's so much help out there, just like Liz was saying with the Watertown SBDC research librarians that are there to help actually pull that data that you need to do your research. And they actually help with the specific research, right? So important, and it's free. It's at no cost to get that help. So obviously reaching out to get that accurate information is so important. And why not, right? So again, identify those needs, what the pain point is, who has the pain, determine where your customers will find you, right? Where are you going to advertise to them and why? Why are you advertising there? And another important thing to think about is to use an identified target audience as a baseline, right? We don't want to, again, overgeneralize with our advertising and how we're reaching out to people, but we want to identify those target audiences, but using it as a baseline as opposed to exclusively, right? That means that if you kind of keep an openness to other potential target audiences, then you're not being too specific, right, with your audience as you grow your business. So I appreciate the time. I'm going to send this right back to Nicole because I know she's got some real specifics to share with us about target audience. Oh.
Thank you so much, Erica. I think that was really valuable feedback. I muted myself a second ago, apparently while I was clicking on things. So basically what we want to do now, you've thought about your target audience and you maybe have a really good idea of what magazines they read, what kind of car they drive, how old they are and all that. And now you're thinking, okay, and the SBDC can help me find more people or help me do some more research. So if I know who these people are, I guess the next question might be, how do I actually reach them? And the good news is the internet makes a lot of things possible. Now, there's still place for lots of other kinds of advertising out there. I'm not necessarily the most knowledgeable person about that, which is why we'll have Erica with me answering some of these questions too. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some general scenarios that people might find themselves in and how to reach your target audience in these very general scenarios. And again, the more specific you get, the better targeted these can be, because just because something is a big audience doesn't mean they're all your customers, right? So you would probably rather reach 10 of your customers than 100,000 people who are never going to buy anything from you. And so what I want to talk about is, like I said, a couple of scenarios. So scenario one, and I run into this a lot with businesses that I work with, they're local businesses. We haven't figured out a way of how to export eyelash extensions yet. You still have to physically come in and get those done, right? So if you're a local business, how do you reach your customers to get them to come in? Obviously, you want them to be nearby, right? And I kind of want to point out something that you probably have seen, which is, your Google My Business listing. So there's lots of, by the way, Google is not the only search engine or even the only place you can have a small business listing. But what's nice is that it's in a pretty used search platform. And oh, right, it would help if I probably hid my banner here. So each Google My Business listing, in addition to having general information, also gives you the ability to add what are called attributes. So that's what's circled here. And this is from a screenshot from Search Engine Journal's website. And as you see here, there's specific fields of information within the Google Business listing where you can specify that you do delivery or takeout and dine in. And by the way, don't think these are just for restaurants. They're not. There is over 300 different attributes that you can add to your business. And so if someone is standing somewhere and they are looking for something near them, eyelash extensions near me, filling out your Google Business listing, if they're using Google, you're more likely to come up. So that's something I think most people could do. And it's a really quick, actionable thing. Yes, you will get calls from Google to try to sell you ads or people pretending they're Google, but you don't need to buy ads. You can have the free listing, okay? But the other thing that you can do with local and nearby businesses is be a part of local groups. So most, for example, there's lots of local Facebook groups and things like that. So there is a way to connect with people online that happen to be nearby. So, using resources like that, I think, is a really valuable way to connect with people. Now, the other kind of scenario we can talk about is sort of a wholesale or business to business type relationship. Now, it could be, like I said, obviously that's going to be a different kind of approach. And there's definitely websites like LinkedIn that specialize in those B2B connections. And something else that you might want to do over time, in addition to, like I said, you go to the SBDC, you get a research of companies that might be interested in buying your, retail product, wholesaling your retail, buying your retail product wholesale for them to sell, is you can be nurturing relationships with those people over time. Because let's face it, sometimes you initially contact someone, they're not ready to talk to you. So something like having a CRM, which is a customer relationship management software, where you're reaching out to people, you're tracking when you reached out to them, and building those relationships over time can be a really valuable use of your online marketing time and be a little bit of a more efficient way to use your email. But like I said, you can check out LinkedIn. There's also lots of B2B selling happening on other websites as well, like TikTok, believe it or not. So feel free to explore those platforms. And a kind of final scenario is people who sell online. Now, it could be, by the way, that you do a little bit of all, maybe you do sell some wholesale, or maybe you do provide services at your location, but also have an online product. So obviously selling things online gives you the most kinds of options. You can really target people. Now, by the way, the Pew Research Foundation every year does a very detailed social media report of who is using social media by all of this demographic information. So if you go by, like Erica said, to figure out, how old is your typical customer? Do they tend, what's their ethnicity? How much money do they make a year? Are they, do they have a high school education? Are they urban or suburban? Or there's basically different kinds of platforms that sort of attract these different kinds of demographics. So it's kind of like walking into a room of people who are already talking about the same things that you want to be talking about by going there. Now, the other thing I will say, though, very quickly is like, don't worry about necessarily being on a large platform, a large social media site to be effective. I wanted to use this as an example. This is a whole social network that is just for drinking beer. It's called Untapped. And I love, by the way, when these internet companies just drop a couple of vowels. I think they're just like trying to get the .com. That's my theory. But so with Untapped, what you can do is you can say that you were at a specific brewery, that you tried specific beers, and it allows you to sort of track and share the different beers you tried, if you liked them or not, that kind of thing. So, I think sometimes people feel like they have to be part of a big platform. They feel like they have to be on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. But the reality is there might be a specific thing for people who are looking to buy what you're selling. And it makes sense, even though it's not a large platform, for you to be on there. And, just so that by the way, this is a little bit scary when you look into it. But once you understand that Google is doing this and other companies, there is a ton right now of personalization going on for you as a consumer. So I took a screenshot of my personalization. By the way, this scrolled down for like 2 more pages. So like, so it guessed my age, it guessed my gender, it guessed what my primary language was, and some things that I was into. I appreciated things that I'm into, bars and nightlife. I think I got that a little bit wrong, but maybe I'm more exciting than I think I am. But it scrolled on for pages and pages of things I'm interested in, some of them very detailed. And a lot, Facebook and Google and all of these platforms are collecting this information about you. And I guess we could be a little bit freaked out by that, by the way, and you can opt out of tracking and things like that. But they're still tracking you a little bit. But I guess what I want to say is the other side of this coin as small business owners is that we can target these people. And I feel like, honestly, if I'm very targeted by a small business, I don't feel nearly as bad as when I'm targeted by a very large business. So those are some, resources you can look into. And Eric, is there anything else that we should add to this target market conversation that we might be leaving out?
Well, I actually was curious. I mean, how do people access that social media platform, the statistics? Because I think that's so important. Is that just public?
Oh yeah. It's
a link or something where they can see that. You type in
search engine, Pew Research Foundation social media report. They do a social media report every year, and I trust the Pew Research Foundation. I know that their data is pretty detailed, and like I said, they do it every year, so you can compare it year to year too, which is kind of helpful to see trends.
And tell us again what it's called.
Oh yeah, Pew Research Foundation social media report. Okay. Like I said, they do one every year. And typically what they do is on their webpage, they have the highlights. That's where I grabbed the image that I showed you with all the different demographic data. But they also have, like I said, a report that's pretty detailed. You could spend a couple of hours reading it if you wanted to, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy that sort of thing, but if you don't, we're not going to judge you. But at least if if they do the work you sort of outlined and really figure it out, you can really quickly look at that list, and rather than feeling like you have to do every social media platform ever, you can narrow it down to 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I think that's why, no matter whether, it doesn't really matter if you like stats or, looking at stats or not. Yeah. I mean, this can make your job so much easier, especially when things are so overwhelming online. Where should I be, right? Identifying your target audience. And I love that idea of, yes, you look at that, look at those statistics, figure out, if Facebook is right for you, if LinkedIn is right for you, if TikTok, and also to not feel like you should be on everything, like you were saying too. So maybe picking the 2 biggies, right? Facebook and Instagram, if that's where your target audience is most likely. And maybe I love the idea of finding more of a smaller targeted platform, like you were mentioning with Untapped. I think that's really cool. That may or may not be an option for people, but add a third one. I think that really is a really great, well-rounded way to handle your social media platforms.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to ever put all your eggs in one basket generally, because that's hard. So it's nice, like you said, take a diversified approach and sort of, like a big platform, maybe a more specific one. And, if the other thing too, to just kind of let you know is, if you have a specific product, it's nice to maybe give people some education about it. And I kind of I loaded an example from TikTok. I hope you don't mind if I play it. I just, like I said, and basically this guy sells something very specific. So I'm just going to show you this. It's like 60 seconds. So.
Ah, yes. This is $12. Let me tell you why. I actually spent hundreds of hours designing this. It's designed to install right here beneath this screw. It's designed for a couple things. One, to prevent you from having to buy new beaters because they chip. And also preventing you from having to buy a new machine because as it mixes, they bounce up and down really hard. It throws the whole system out of whack and damages the machine. If you take a look at the head of the screw there, you can see another little cavity that it sinks down into. Trust us, we searched for dozens of hours trying to find one that was already made. We couldn't. We had to design this ourselves. We had to get all of the measurements and we had to try a million different things before we got to the end point. With that $12, we also offer free shipping in the US. All said and done, we will have spent $15,000. Yes, $15,000 on designing, manufacturing, and also patenting these things. It's not cheap. But hey, if you want to buy a new machine or new paddles because they're getting beat up, be my guest. Just trying to help improve the mixing experience and build a future for that little guy back there. If that isn't worth $12, what is?
So after that video, his website crashed because he got so much traffic and he sold out. And he got rid of, and he lost all his he used up all his packaging materials. So yeah, it's just, oh, hold on.
Oh, am I muted?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you're unmuted now.
No, I was saying, talk about a widget, right? I mean, how about that personal touch at the end with his baby? I mean, it's like, it has nothing to do with the product, but it's that, hey, I'm just another regular guy here, trying to promote my product kind of thing. I think is pretty cool, but.
Well, I like that he sells a very particular product, a KitchenAid product, right? So it's a very specific brand and a specific thing that helps increase the lifespan of your KitchenAid appliance. And so finding these people online, right? Like obviously I'm sure he takes out very targeted ads and things like that, but also he creates very specific kinds of content where he talks about, and he also does videos about how to fix things on your KitchenAid mixer, how to make it work better. So over time, he's built this community of people who are very interested in maintaining their KitchenAids and making sure they last a long time. So, when they're ready to buy something or when they're ready to get it fixed or maintained, he's top of mind. He's the KitchenAid guy.
Yeah,
Mr.
absolutely.
Mixer. That's his handle.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think that's true. I was thinking in my head, okay, I wonder if he's also, marketing to businesses too, and what that message is, or if it's just consumer right now. But he certainly has certainly thought very carefully about his target audience with regard to on the consumer side of it, as far as direct to consumer sales, right? Because of the $12 and the, go ahead and buy another blender, if you think that's a good idea, and then showing the baby right in the background. So
But see, it puts that idea out there. And if I had a kitchen store, I might be like, oh, maybe I should include one of these with every KitchenAid I sell as part of my thing. And then I contact him and say, hey, can I buy 100 of these or 200 of these? I'm sure rather than him putting it in an envelope and sending it for $12, I'm sure he would rather, create a bunch of these and send them to a business. I'm guessing anyway. I don't entirely, we haven't talked. He has over 150,000 followers on TikTok.
Right.
Which I think is amazing. But yes. So like I said, being specific and by justifying his pricing and all that, I mean, don't be afraid to be specific because it'll attract the right people and might crash your website in a good way.
That's a good problem.
Yeah, it's a problem we all wish we had. I mean, I haven't ever had the problem, but maybe someday. So, is there anything else we should say about target markets, or should we answer some questions that we have queued up here?
If we have any questions, I think that's.
All right, awesome. So, by the way, I'm just going to flash this on the screen again. If you have marketing questions, you're watching this and you have a marketing question you've always wanted to ask somebody. One time I did this thing with my co-working space with lawyers where it was just like an ask a lawyer thing. And it was like, oh, I don't know if I want to pay hundreds of dollars to find this out, but I'd really like to know. You can think of this as kind of like that. So if you have a question, you can comment wherever you're watching this. Facebook and YouTube is where it's happening. But also if you want to email with Marketing Monday in the subject, we'll answer your question. Maybe not today, but maybe next live stream. Because like I said, we're doing this until the end of the year. So our first question is about Instagram. They're all about it. How do I get more followers on Instagram? The question I get this question at least twice a week. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you get this in your sessions too?
Yeah, for sure. But I think you're the better one to answer that question, actually.
So I think the thing is with Instagram is that like, it's like any platform. You can't, okay. You know, when you go to a party and there's that guy who like walks around and interrupts everyone's conversation to say his thing and then moves to the next group and moves to the next group. And like, you're standing there with your friends and you're like, oh, it's coming over our way. That's what it feels like when people just jump on a platform, blah, and then leave. It feels very transactional. So I will say, if you want to get more followers on Instagram, the best thing to do is actually leave comments on other people's Instagrams and stuff like that. Now, if like me, you feel a little overwhelmed by that task, there is a website, because there's a website for everything. And it's called $1.80. And it's put out by Gary Vee. Do you know that guy? He's like a marketing guy. So it's called $1.80. And the idea, so the idea of it, super short, is that you're supposed to leave your 2 cents, like a comment, on 90 Instagram posts a day. So 2 cents, 90 comments is $1.80. I think that's where they get the name. Now, if that sounds insane to you, and it doesn't sound insane to me.
It sounds insane to me.
Okay, that's the paid version is the $1.80. But the free version lets you leave 10 comments a day on Instagram. Now that to me feels a lot more doable. And that's the free version of this. And so I did it for a month. I was like, all right, I'm going to try this for a month. I didn't do it every day because I take weekends off and stuff like that. But I did it, 5 days a week. There was a little issue. I think I did it at least 18 days of the 20 or whatever. And I got like an extra like 75 Instagram followers. And I think I had like 600-ish. So like I got up to like 725 or something. Or, I did get more followers by interacting with other people. So if like me, you're like bad about finding people to interact with and need some kind of little system, something like that might work well. Like I said, the free version, the 20-cent version versus the $1.80 speaks more to me.
Yeah. It seems a little bit more doable. And
oh my God.
Yeah. And I also, if you've identified Instagram as, the place where your most likely targeted audience is, then it makes sense to spend that time doing that. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know,
yeah,
there's a lot of temptation to like buy followers and stuff. And it's totally a vanity thing, because especially like if you're watching this and you want to be an influencer, and I mean, let's face it, I want to be an influencer a little bit. Companies don't necessarily look at your number of followers. That is a factor, but the biggest factor is engagement rate. So they don't care if you have if you went out and bought like 1 million followers, they don't care, because if they're not engaging with you, it doesn't make sense for them to partner with you, because you're not going to be able to help them sell anything. So they're looking for engagement rates.
Somebody who's truly interested in your product or service, potentially.
Yeah. And an engagement is like a comment, a share, like they interacted with you in some way. And your engagement rate is calculated by your number of followers divided by the number of engagements to get a percentage. And, they're shooting, if they see 3%, they think you're doing pretty good. So just throwing that out there.
So what are your thoughts about spending time that way on Instagram, reaching your target audience or getting more engagement versus, or in combination with, making sure that you're creating consistent posts, are engaging? I mean, are you saying that this is something that you're doing in addition to being consistent with that? And what does consistent mean?
For me, consistent, full disclosure, Instagram's not my favorite. I'm a social media person. I have to be on all of them, but I definitely have my favorites. I am a person. I have preferences. I would say I post 3 times a week on my Instagram. Yeah. And so I would say spend more time, obviously. Once you get that whole leaving 10 comments a day, that $1.80 app lets you follow certain hashtags. So if there's certain kinds of business you're looking to build, you could follow specific, hashtags about that and leave comments on accounts that are also talking about that same thing or wanting to do or interested in that same thing you are. So I would say at first this took me a long time because I had to think of something clever to say. And I didn't want to just say something that was like, nice post, bro. You know, like I wanted to like contribute to the conversation. So, so it took me a little while, but now I got it down. I can do this in about 10 minutes now in a day, leaving 10 comments.
That's amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
no, because I have the right hashtags now, you know, that I really like to follow. And I've honestly, I think my favorite part about this was I found this amazing illustrator. She has like 220 followers and she's so talented. I feel like I didn't discover her. I mean, obviously she's doing her work, but I feel like, oh, like I'm in early on this really talented person. And I'm having her do a portrait for a surprise gift for somebody later on. So yeah, I think if you want to get more Instagram followers or followers on any platform, you have to actually participate in the platform, not just putting your own stuff out, but also like interacting with other people. And, you know, if you want to take out ads to get people to follow it, like that's fine. There's in the Facebook business suite, I think that's what it's called now. There's one of the ad targets is getting more Instagram followers. If you want to like run an occasional campaign to get some more followers, or if you want to maybe run a little contest on Instagram. So like, you know, hey, we're giving away, you know, $100 gift certificate, you know, share this, you know, and obviously you need to follow the rules, right? There is contest rules on Facebook and Instagram. That you can run a little campaign, whether that's a paid ad campaign or whether that's like a, you know, a giveaway or some other kind of contest. You know, so over time, you know, you're slowly organically growing and then you run a campaign and it goes up and then you're slowly organically growing. And then it's hard to run campaigns all the time as a small business, I think. But if you do
I love the idea
of,
I love the idea of more of like a contest or giveaway versus spending those ad dollars, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's probably where most small businesses are at, honestly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because then your product's out there more too. If you're doing a giveaway with your product or something, there's, you know, there are a lot of advantages to that than just, you know, putting out marketing dollars that you're not sure, you know, where they're going to go.
For sure. So I would say those are some ways to do it and to just like, you know, give it time. Like you can't do this for 3 days and be like, where are my thousands of fans? You know, like, it's just like building relationships online. I think people think we're taking a shortcut here by doing it online, that we can build relationships faster. But the reality is it gives us extra tools to build the relationships. Like we don't have to be in the same place at the same time to build the relationship, or we don't have to be awake at the same time. I could post something and be sleeping and you can look at it at 10 o'clock at night while I've been sleeping for 3 hours. That's like an exaggeration, but but other than that, the time to build a relationship still, to me, still takes the same amount of time. It just gives you more options.
Right. And again, allows you to hone in on a target audience better than we've ever been able to do before, really, right? As long as you do it the right way. Yeah. So
absolutely. Yeah. So are you ready for another loaded question? It's kind of loaded. Ready?
I'll send right back to you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, well, you attributed to that one too. How much time should I spend on my marketing?
Oh, so this is interesting. You know, I owned a full service bookstore coffee house for 10 years. And, you know, I brought in some consultants in the beginning. I mean, basically it was 2 separate businesses, right? A bookstore and a coffee house, and, you know, different marketing strategies and very overwhelming. So I always heard the rule that in the beginning, and it was mostly the same for both of them, that, you know, your first year or two, it's like 5% of your gross sales. Now this is a little bit tough in the beginning, but you ought to be having your projected sales, right? You need to know these things with your business planning and everything. And don't forget that SBDC can help you with that too. But you know that based on your projections for the first year, that your marketing dollar or budget for that year should be about 5% of that. And then I have always heard that can potentially go down, you know, later, that, you know, as your business grows and you've been out there for a while. But then I just heard from John Hunt, who we use as a marketing consultant sometimes for some of our other workshops and that kind of thing. He was saying like 4 or 5% or so across the board, always. And that's typically, like, if we're going to give examples of big, huge companies that are doing this, like the McDonald's and the Subways of the world, always kind of use that 5% rule. I mean, I wonder what you think about marketing spend and budget now that we are online and using social media oftentimes as free services and listings in a way to get out to our customers that don't cost anything or cost very little, and what that means to that bottom line marketing budget.
Yeah, I will say, like, the thing is, I get that at the beginning of the business, you probably have more time than you do money, right? And I'm sort of recognizing that with this question, I recognize that, like, how much time should I spend? What's going to probably happen as your business grows is you're going to have more money than time. And so you're going to hand off some of these kind of marketing tasks, right? And pay someone else to do them. So maybe at the beginning, you're kind of doing your own thing. So I guess the only way I feel comfortable answering this question is how much time do I spend on my own marketing, right? And so my kind of MO is I'm kind of an educator. I'd like to think I'm kind of fun. Apparently I like bars and nightlife according to Google, which I'm not sure how true that is, but so how much time do I spend on my marketing? So I do a weekly live stream. And so I probably spend about an hour or two preparing for the live stream, sometimes longer. So the one coming up tomorrow was more prep because I was running an experiment essentially. I spend like half an hour doing the live stream. And then afterward, I type up my notes and they go onto the blog and, YouTube and all the places. So I probably spend 5 hours a week on that live stream, either between my time and someone else's time, because I have some staff who help me out with parts of it as well. And then, I do some other, obviously, we have to check our messages on the different platforms and things like that. So I think someone else who's not me now spends about 2 hours a week on that. So I would say we spend a total of, and I would say, miscellaneous activities, creating new content and things like that. I would say we spend about 10 hours a week on our marketing right now. And a big part, part of that is that we have to do all the marketing because we have to show people that I make TikToks and I'm like on Instagram Reels and I'm trying to show people that you can do these different things. And I would say most businesses, unless you're a marketing company, you don't have to do all those things. Obviously, you don't have to kind of demonstrate to other people that you know how to do these things like I do. So I think you could probably spend less time. And I know with me, we drive everyone to the website, so we're, either whether I'm presenting a live stream or creating a piece of content, they're going to the website, they're looking around, they're usually spending, and you can see that with Google Analytics. I can see they're looking around and then I can see that they might fill out a contact form or book a consultation or something like that. So I think 10 hours a week is probably a lot. I would say that honestly, most businesses could probably get away with 15 minutes to half an hour a day. And I think you'd be doing way better than a lot of people, to be completely honest, as a small business owner.
Yeah. Wow. So, and sorry, I think I misunderstood your original question.
No, but what happens though?
Yeah. Right.
No, you end up having to spend money. So it's like, it's a mind shift and it feels so weird because, you bootstrapped at the beginning, you made it work and you did your own painting and and at a certain point that sort of, I'm going to do everything myself attitude doesn't serve you anymore. And you should, does it make sense for you to be making Instagram posts or does it make sense for you to be like strategically running your business as it grows? And obviously I think we can kind of see where that's going. So,
and there is that whole, the whole idea of, the owner of a business and the general overseeing of, all of the things that you have to do, whether it's, general operations, staffing, financials, and then your marketing, right? So hopefully there's been a strategic marketing plan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Part of your business plan and all of that. And, really the owner or the operator's job is to continually go back to that plan and say, where are we, and be looking at those analytics and that data to say, are we on track? How much money are we spending? How much time are we spending? Just like you were talking about. And I think it really is helpful to have some of those guidelines, like, okay, 10 hours a week, like that, maybe something that we can go by to start. So it's super helpful, I think, for people to hear that.
Well, yeah. And like I said, I can only talk about sort of my situation. And the thing is, different people like doing different kinds of marketing tasks. Like I have, one of my clients, he really loves like taking photos and he's great at it. So like he is a natural like Instagram maintainer, like he enjoys it. So like if every day you wake up and you're like, oh, I have to post on Facebook and you hate your whole life, you're not going to do it. You know what I mean? So I would rather it be something you're sort of excited about. And I would say the main thing that sucks a lot of time, which you don't realize until you're doing social media, is like all the distractions. So I actually have my newsfeed turned off on Facebook when I'm on my computer. I literally can't see my newsfeed. That way I won't like see a picture go by and say, oh.
Get distracted. Well, we all have those problems now, but because of the internet, right?
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
like there's the Google Chrome extension. You can hide your Facebook feed. You can also limit your amount of time on certain websites. So you can like basically block a website after like 15 minutes. You know, you can set the timer for these different websites, and then you'll try to go to it and a pop-up will say, sorry, like you're out of time today. So there's these different tools. I find what takes most people, they say it takes a long time. And I'm not saying it doesn't, because social media does take time, but what takes a lot of extra time is that distraction kind of stuff. So if you like go in, you're going to update your business Facebook page, check your messages, and then pop out, you know, I think that that could be really a helpful mindset about it. Because otherwise 3 hours later, you're scrolling through your friend from high school's pictures from their last vacation or something. And you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think too that, you know, once you, as your business grows and you do have somebody maybe working just part-time or, you know, doing those daily tasks of making sure you've got your posts up there and engagement is happening and all of that, you know, as the business owner, to be able to mark off that time when, you know, maybe there's a monthly meeting with that person, but then you're also kind of circling back to your strategy and, you know, is our target audience the same? Do we want to start to reach out to different people for whatever reason? Maybe our product services changed a little bit, and to really be able to sit down with that at least once a month, you know, to analyze and see how things are going as far as the general plan is concerned.
That's such a good point. I can't tell you how many times I work with interns a lot in different parts of my job. And I can't tell you how many 20-year-olds have been handed a make me a marketing strategy. And like, they don't know your business as well as you do. And they also like, you know all the moving parts. And so it's important for you, you know, you don't need to know how to post an Instagram story. I don't think, if you're not into it, that's probably not a great use of your time. But do you want to know how you're going to use those stories and what they're promoting and how that's working? You know, I think your point there of like checking in and being the person who understands what's generally going on, maybe without getting in the weeds about it. I think that's a really good, point to make sure that anybody you're hiring to do your marketing or any tasks that are getting done are actually moving the business forward.
Right. Absolutely. And then you're getting the feedback from them too, because they're going to have fresh ideas and, you know, different ways of potentially doing things too that might be advantageous. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's important to keep that communication going along with anybody who's working on your marketing and that kind of,
Yeah, for sure. And I think we can slip in this one question just because it goes with what we were talking about. And it's sort of like, what social media should I be using? So this is the questions I get the most. How much time should I spend and what should I be? Basically, like, tell me everything that I should be doing.
Right.
And I kind of want to tell, if you're watching this, if you've made it this far, first of all, thank you. But second of all, if I could tell you exactly what to do, I would be laying on a beach fanning myself with $1,000 bills somewhere. Honestly, I would just tell you what to do, and then I would take your money and know that it was going to work for you. But the reality is we have to try different things out, which to me, with most new clients, I like to do 3 social media sites if they'll let me. Sometimes people come to me and be like, I just want to do Facebook. And I'm like, but the problem is if Facebook changes its algorithm even a little bit and your views go down a lot, you know, relying on any one platform, if anything change, and you have no control over it, if anything changes, then suddenly you're up creek, you know? So I recommend to diversify and like pick 3 websites, you know, maybe 2 that seem kind of tried and true and 1 that feels a little experimental to you. Like, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's try it. Maybe that's YouTube. Maybe that's TikTok. Maybe that's Pinterest, you know? So like, yeah. So maybe like kind of, I don't know. I don't, how do you see this, this kind of question?
Well, you know, the way I see it is the same as far as picking like your top 3. And again, you know, we've talked about this several times in the last 45 minutes, as far as knowing where you should be, you know, and again, using those statistics that you showed, figuring out, you know, where you should be, you know, first and foremost will really help you determine that. And like you said, it's different for every business. So you can't, you know, like you said, you can't be the one that says, do this, do that, do this, you know. It really depends on the product or service and the business in general. And I will add to that too, just in a sort of more general viewpoint, is that it's not just about, it's not just about social media, right?
Mhm.
And I think this has changed so much, and especially like as if we talk about budgeting and how much time to spend and everything, but I still believe in an integrated marketing plan and strategy, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be print advertising for you or whether or not that's even worth it anymore. It's good to know, right, and know what your competition is doing with regard to other things beyond social media platforms, which it could be some online advertising, maybe, depending. We have to be careful about these things now. But, public relations is part of marketing too, right?
Absolutely.
Identifying publications where your target audience is to be able to ask for free articles and that kind of thing. Or maybe it's in conjunction with a little small print advertising where you get a nice article about your business. All of those things go into your marketing strategy, and everybody has to think about those things that are, that work together, right, to create that integrated marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to each other, right, where your messaging is consistent, and those kind of things. Obviously, your branding and all that has to go into it too. So I sometimes worry that small business owners are just so focused on social media that they don't also look at the other pieces and parts of a strong marketing strategy and plan. So
yeah, and I think they ask about it because it's like free except for their time,
right,
and they see the different people are using it. But yeah, I think it's important, like if you're going to pick a couple of social media sites, to understand that maybe you're going to do some email, maybe you're going to do some text message marketing, maybe you're going to do some print or some regular press releases, that there's a holistic view of it, because otherwise if you just kind of do the same things, you're just going to keep, so you need to reach different kinds of people.
And there are certain businesses where it just makes a ton of sense to get out there and network, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, if there's a fee associated with that, it's not much compared to one print ad that you could put out that may or may not get you some leads, But so really to understand, if you're in a situation where that kind of networking and community outreach is an important part of your marketing plan too. So that there are traditional ways of doing things, but they're not dead.
Absolutely. No. And it's important. And I think that's a great note to end on today.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw this on the screen here. If you're watching this and are like, wow, I feel excited about my marketing again. I've had my summer break and I'm ready to go into fall with some marketing stuff. Make an appointment with the Watertown SBDC counselor. They're accessible, and you can find them on all these platforms that are on the screen. You can call in, you can go to their website and book a meeting. And what they can do is they can at least get you on a path with some specific information about your business and kind of help you get organized. I know that's, one of the first things I did when I, came to New York is I found my local SBDC, and it's like a super valuable resource. So I'm going to keep that on the screen here. And, and thanks to everyone for watching. We'll be back at you next week, same time, same place. So feel free when you see that stream come on, you can RSVP. And it's not nearly as painful as like a wedding RSVP where you have to say what dance song you want or whether you want chicken or fish. You can just say that you're coming and you'll get a little notification when we go live. And and like I said, we've got all these exciting topics coming up, including, like Erica says, the soul marketing strategy, I think is one of our upcoming topics, if I have it correct. So thanks again so much for watching, everyone. And thanks, Erica, so much for helping me field the questions. That was great.
Nicole, thank you so much for your time and all of your marketing input.
All right. We'll see you all next week. Take care.
See you next week.
Bye.